Well, have you ever heard of the concept of divine twins? Something that's real strong in Greek literature and actually through the ancient Anatolia, Syrian people, and in the Middle East. It actually has connections back to Proto-Europeans and so on, and that concept that goes there, but it covers a whole lot of people. In fact, kind of the concept of everywhere that they went. Let's take a look into this a little bit deeper here. This is twins, kings, and horses, symbols of the divine. Twins are divine in ancient mythology. The ancient figures of the divine twins are recognizable throughout the world with minor variations of the same themes. They're usually depicted as the sons of a sky god, or even having dual paternity. One twin is from a human father and the other twin from a god. Among the many associations to the divine twins is the custom of dual kingship, the warrior king and the priestly king, where one king would go on campaigns and the other would remain to protect and reassure the tribe. Mentions of this custom were made as early as accounts by ancient Greek historian Tacitus, who was around 56 to 120 of the Common Era, and continued well into the Migration Age, where the twin kings became popular legendary figures all over eventually. Here's a look at Tacitus. However, an interesting association occurs in the names of the twin leaders of the Anglo-Saxon invasion of Britannia, Horsa and Hengest of Jutes, who were said to be the descendants of Woden, or the god Odin of Norse mythology. The two names are words for actually horse and for stallion, respectively, in Old English, giving that same connotation, but also showing you a connection to the people that had originally domesticated the horse and brought it to the rest of humanity, which became eventually extremely important. We still refer to things as having horsepower of our cars because that came from carts who were pulled by such. This is a depiction here of the two heroes, the horse and the stallion, or Horsa, where we get the word horse from, and Hengest. This association does not appear to be coincidence, though. The idea of divine twins formed a part of the original Proto-Indo-European religion in the 4th millennium BC, so back 6,000 years. Subsequent records identify and define the distribution of these gods in time and space through their descendant cultures, such as the Germanic twins Alcus, meaning sacred space or protection, and the Hellenic Dioscuri, were sons of God, which refer to the twins Castor and Pollux. And I did a video about sons of God of the Bible and how that relates to a certain people too. The Vedic Ashvins are horse tamers, are possessors of horses, which became extremely important to India, which we'll talk about a little later. The Lithuanian Ashvini are cognate to Ashvin, actually, and the Latvian Dieva Dele, which actually again means sons of God, among others. All these twins are mostly associated with the sun, with the sea or sea god, which Enki became, and therefore Neptune, and healing, which can go all the way from Mercury, healing gods of the Mesopotamians, Asclepius, on to Jesus, and so on. But he encompasses all, for he conquers and calms the sea, and he's a sun god. However, another association that they share that is perhaps not as obvious is the association with horses that people may not usually recognize. Here's a look at Castor and Pollux. It's either type of cap they've got going on, but notice that they've got horses here in a prancing pose of stallions, war horses types. It's almost like a Master of Beasts symbology, but dual armies, dual ways, and the woman is in between holding. And that is Artemis, Diana, queen of the hunt, but yet there's more to her than just one simple phrase. The divine twins and the sun. See, after 2000 BC, texts from Near East and India present new generations of gods into their pantheons. Things changed over. Did so in the Greeks too. In fact, their whole legend is about it with the Titanaki, which others share a very similar account to, and then an eventual storm god, which I did a whole series on last year. Among them are the divine twins. Archaeological evidence from Europe suggests that the divine twins were dominant gods during the 2nd millennium BC, whose fame continued well into the early 1st millennium BC. Their popularity is probably linked to the expansion of the war chariot after about 2000 BC, which they used to drive around the earth with the sun. In fact, there are depictions of an actual chariot carrying a symbology of the sun, and on that symbology is a calendar related to the sun. They brought a lot of things to humanity as they rode around. The Vedic references of the gods predate the earliest classical Homeric writings by about 1,000 years. The Rig Veda contains the earliest and most detailed evidence of the twin gods, Ashvins. They are considered the brothers of Usha, the goddess of dawn, and represent twilight as darkness and light appear intertwined on the horizon just before dawn, as well as before dusk. Also, Venus was said to be two different aspects, because you would see her rise before dawn and then come up again and be the early morning star, but also show up in the late. And some people had mythologies written around that concept too, which strangely, if you follow its 8-year path, makes a perfect pentagram in the sky. But that's for other videos. In the Vedic text, the divine twins are among the most popular of gods. In India, they helped Indra, their uncle, to get some Vedic ritual drink, soma, from Tavastar, the sky father and the firstborn creator of the universe, suggesting their importance in the pantheon. The Ashvins, often pictured as divine horsemen, are referred to 400 times in 50 out of the 1028 hymns of the Rig Veda. Shall we show you a few of those? But let's show you some more revealing things about Indra. Here somebody's compiled a list of just some of the accounts. It says that some great quotes from the Griffin's translation of the Rig Veda that was done back in 1896 about Aryans, and also they show their difference between the extreme southerners that lived in the very southern point of India. Description of Indra really do seem somehow to parallel Thor. They have yellow braids, wielding a lightning bolt, slaying Vitra, which is a serpent, just like Jorgamander, or parallel to biblical Leviathan and others. And of course, drinking lots of soma. Soma is this sacred drink, but it's been found to be made out of cannabis, ephedra, and opium, sometimes having other additives for flavors and effects. But in general, that's it. Indra 193 says, O Lord of all men, fair of cheek, rejoice thee in the gladdening louds, present these at these drink offerings. 118 says, he much invoked hath slain Dacius and Simmias after his wont. and laid them low with arrows. The mighty Thunderer, with his fair complexed friends, won the land, the sunlight, and the waters. Indra won 101 just after. Sing with obulation, praise to him who maketh glad, who with Rishvan drove the dusky brood away. Fain for help him the strong whose right hand wields the bolt. Him girt my Martis we invoke to be our friend. So we can see that lightning bolt concept keeps coming up here, and also what was happening during at least one of these conflicts here and who they were driving. But this is nothing against India and these people in any way. This is just the reality of their own biblical type text that they have dating way back, and it shows you these connections and who had written these actual texts. Armed with his bolt and trusting his powers, he wandered shattered through the forts of Dacis. Cast thy dart, throwing thunder at the Dasyu, increasing the Aryan's might and glory, Indra. For him who thus hath taught these human races, Magvan, bearing fame worthy of title, Thunderer, drawing nigh to slay the Dacius, hath given himself the name for the Son of Glory. Dacius is the southern Indian, darker skinned people that's still in the caste thing. That's just, let's continue. Indra 1:138. Indra in battles help his Aryan worshipper, he who hath 100 helps at his hand every fray, and in frays that win the light of heaven, plaguing the lawless, he gave up to Manu's seed the dusky skin, blazing twere he burns each covetous man away. He burns the tyrannous away, or tyrannous would be a correct pronunciation. Indra 4:16-13. Thou to the son of Vidithan, Ravashan, gavest up mighty Murgaya and Pipru. Thou smotest down the swarthy 50,000 and rentest forts as age consumes a garment. 5:29-10. One car wheel of the sun thou hast rolleth forward, and one thou settest free to move from Kutsa. Thou slowest noseless or flat-nosed Dacius with thy weapon in their home, and other west hostile speakers. Soma Pavama 9:41-1 says, active and bright have they come forth, impetuous in speed like bulls driving back the black skin far away. Again, people, this is nothing against this. This is actually passages from this. We can do this with the Bible and so on. In fact, I'm about to reveal something to you about that, or connections with this ancient twins, which this has connections to, but these are things that were said. 973:5 of Pamanyan says, Oversire and mother, they have roared in unison, bright with the verse praise, burning up rightless men, blowing away with supernatural might from earth and from the heavens the swarthy skin which Indra hates. Indra 10:23-4. With him too is this rain of that comes like herds. Indra throws drops of moisture on his yellow beard. When the sweet juice is shed, he seeks the pleasant place and stirs the worshipper as wind disturbs the woods. Indra 10:96-8. At the swift draught the Soma drinker waxed in might, the iron one with yellow beard and yellow hair, he, lord of tawny coursers, lord of fleet-footed mares, will bear his bay steeds safely over all distress. So there's just a few connections there, but let's go back and we'll make some more here. You see, twins in Greek mythology and all over Syria actually had a divine message with them. They were somehow split divine, as we were saying before, And one brother who would end up doing better of the two, if that happened, would end up being seen as the more divine one, or the one that must be from that union. They couldn't understand twins happening at once, and so there was a belief that if twins happened, it was because Zeus had interacted on that, which is Deus, which is the Sky Father that we talk about throwing his bolts and everything too. But it just means the word God, Deus. Jupiter is Deus Pater. That means Day Father or Sky Father too, so there's also connections there. And the reason we put it on the planet is because of its nightly path that goes through the zodiac, which takes 12 years to go through, so that seems to work out real well. But that's for other videos. But there are a lot of them other than this Castor and Pollux that are mentioned in Greek mythology. You could probably down below put a few of them that I easily don't mention in mythologies and ideas. But Hercules was a twin. Most people don't know it, but if you watch the kids show, they even have this play on it. It was called Ithacles. You can kind of think of that movie with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you've ever seen it. It's an old movie called Twins, where they did twins, but they tried to put all the great in one and all the in another, and supposedly they're twins. It's hilarious when they get together and they put on the same type of clothes and they go, yeah, we can see it, and all this stuff. It's hilarious. Arnold was, of course, also raised on an island where he didn't even know the world existed, pretty much, on a Johnny Quest type thing. It's just really an odd movie, but they have to play it that way. But perhaps you've seen that movie. You know, Jesus had a twin brother. Most people don't know about that, but in some phases he's actually an identical twin. It's called Thomas. In fact, doubting Thomas and so on, that's still in the Gospels and go on, and he's the important one that had to verify that it was Jesus came back. It was doubting Thomas. That's his brother. In fact, he's known as Didymus Judas Thomas. And Didymus actually means twin in Greek. And Thomas actually means twin in Aramaic. So he's supposed to have been, and there are actually Gospels that were not put into the Bible that talk about this directly. You know, Judas is another name for Jude, like, hey, Jude. But Judas is another person real important in Jesus' life too, because Judas betrayed him with a kiss. Man, see, that's brothers. And this is real, you know, real brothers, not just brothers in Christ, or how you would take that sometimes. In one text, he is Jesus' identical twin brother, by the way. And that gives you something to think about. But it's called the Acts of Thomas. So it's even another Gospel of Thomas that was been found, or at least a portion of it, where he seems to have been the missionary to India. In fact, they actually play off this twin thing and who's who, and, you know, one of the passages that were here in it. Yeah, it makes you wonder why they use word passages for biblical texts. But I guess that's linguistics and something else. We're talking about twins here. You know, in some circles, supposedly Cain and Abel were supposed to be twins, but one got killed. So there's that in the Old Testament. So it's nothing that's new. In fact, Jesus was put in that situation because he matched all these things that had happened before, such as Jacob and Esau, which are known to have been twins, and they put the red yarn around Esau was the first, and so he was the rightful heir, the redhead. But somehow that got taken away from him because they fooled his father at his death, whenever he couldn't even see, even put a fake goat skin on him and said things. It's kind of a far-fetched story if you think about it, but that was supposed to be relaying something that a lot of people don't catch out of that. But there's also other twins that happen in the Bible. And situations like that, there's always known as these sacred brothers who don't necessarily have to be twins. But if there's a twin situation, it either seems to be drawn into one of them is the king, the other one is the warrior god that's there over the top of it during a warrior type situation with warring people, where a king could be safe and his brother goes on and things go awry, whatever, but the king is still in place. Kind of like chess, huh? But there can also be warriors, like in the Greeks and Romans, that we found out that later take over, such as what happened with Titus and his father, which also have connections to biblical tales and the second coming in situations, actual Armageddon that's already happened. But that's for another video, I guess. Can you name a few more divine twins? By the name of that, it almost sounds like there's one in Shakespeare. There's a couple more in Greeks that I could point out too. There's a few more. And then just twins. In general, the way people looked at this in this area of ancient times again was that if your wife had twins somehow, there was something extra going on. Gives a strange idea to the way that the Mary thing worked out too, doesn't it? And the picture that's shown there are given to us. Peace.